everyone, welcome to Thousand Island Environmental Center Storytime. My name is Stephanie. Today we're going to be reading Some Babies Are Wild by Marion Dane Bauer, photographed by Stan Tequila. Some babies are wild. Some babies are soft, like this little bunny rabbit. Some babies are prickly, like this porcupine. Some babies are very slow, like these turtles. And some move quickly, like this ocelot. Some live underground, like this coyote. Some live inside a tree, like the raccoon babies. Some live in a house just like you and me, like these bluebird babies and their mama. Some babies awaken with the first daylight. There's the goldfinch in their nest with their babies. Some of them are up in the middle of the night. You know what babies those are. Owl babies. Some babies like to climb, like this bear. Some like to cling, like the opossum babies. Some hang on tight, like this little porcupine. Hold on, buddy. And some take wing, like this little baby wood duck who's jumping out of its nest to be by its mom on the ground. Some babies are light and some are dark. Here we have a couple of pheasant babies. Some eat bright berries. This little raccoon is enjoying his red berries for his meal. And some munch on bark. There we have a little baby beaver. Most babies like to discover one another. There's a fawn and a couple raccoons. But all babies love Mama. There's Mama Bear and Baby Bear. And Mama loves Baby too. And Mama Wolf and Baby Wolf. Just as your Mama loves you. The end. Babies are different depending on what kind of animal it is. So if the animal is a mammal, that's an animal that has fur. It has a different type of baby than an animal that has feathers, which would be a bird. So all babies are born during the time of the year when it's easiest for them to be able to learn how to survive for the entire summer. So that's how they spend their summer, is learning to survive, and that's why many babies are born in the springtime. Babies are born in the spring so that they can survive and be able to learn how not to get eaten, like this mouse, or how to hunt for their food and be able to find their food and catch it and eat it. Some babies use the summertime to learn how to freeze and not move at all, so they can make sure that the predators never even know they're there. Some babies learn how to fight back if they need to. Raccoons can sometimes be a little bit scary when they need to defend themselves. And some babies learn to fly away and flee if there's a predator, so that they don't have to worry about anything coming after them. They can get away quickly. Babies of mammals. This is an opossum. An opossum is a mammal. They have fur and they have live babies. So when an opossum has a baby, their babies actually live in a little pouch inside their belly while they are growing bigger. But most mammals have their babies, and the babies are born without any fur, their eyes are closed, and they don't have any teeth. So they have to be cared for by their mama. And the mama has special milk that can help the babies to grow bigger and grow their fur and let their eyes open, and then they grow their teeth when they can start eating real food. So some babies are very, very tiny and can't move away from where they are born. So lots of times animals have their babies in a hole in the ground or a hole in a tree. And those babies are kept there long enough until they get big enough to come out and search for food by themselves. Mom will go back and forth and feed those babies, like the rabbit, who only comes back to her little nest in the ground twice a day to feed her babies. And then she leaves to go and get food for herself. Animals like our fawn, if you can see the fawn back here. So the fawn is an animal that is a little bit different. That's where mom has the baby, and the baby sits curled up in a little ball in the grass or in the forest, and she doesn't move until mom comes there. When mom comes back, the baby stands up, she drinks milk from the mama, and then the mama cleans her up so she doesn't have any smell at all. Once that baby is done drinking the milk, she lays back down again on the ground and she hides in the grass until mom comes back again. Those babies are born with some fur and their eyes are open and they can move around, but they don't move around too much until they get a little bit bigger. Birds are a little bit different than mammals because birds don't have babies inside of their bellies. They lay eggs. Eggs that are hard on the outside, but on the inside, there's babies growing inside of that egg. Some birds make nests in trees, like a robin or a woodpecker. So the woodpecker and the robin both make nests in the trees high up off the ground. So because those eggs are way up high, those babies are very tiny when they hatch out of their eggs. The mama, before they hatch, the mama sits on the eggs and she keeps them warm. She incubates them, that's the word. So she takes those eggs and she rolls them over with her beak, and then she sits on the eggs and she keeps them warm with her belly and her wings. The eggs are kept protected by the mama in the nest until they're ready to hatch. When those eggs are ready to hatch, birds that live in trees way up high, the eggs will hatch into little baby birds. And those little baby birds don't have any feathers, and they don't have their eyes open, and they can't feed themselves. So it's Mama's job to fly away and go find some food and then come back again and feed the birds who are very hungry. So they open their mouths and say, "Ah, feed me, feed me." And the mama sees their open mouths and she flies away and gets more food and brings them food back again until those babies are big enough to get out of their nest and fly away. But birds that make their nest on the ground, like a duck. So ducks and geese and pheasants and turkeys, they make their nest on the ground, and their eggs are a little bit bigger than the eggs of the birds that leave their nest or make their nests in the trees. So these eggs, because they're bigger, the babies have more chances to grow bigger inside of the egg. So when they hatch and they come out of the egg, those babies have all their feathers, and well, they're little feathers. They're called downy feathers. So they're soft and they're fluffy. So when baby birds like the duck or the goose have their feathers and their eyes are open, they can follow behind mom and dad and be able to stay right with them, like the little duckling with the webbed feet in the water. Or if it's a turkey, then he can chase mom and dad on the ground and run behind them if they need to. So they'll stay right with their parents and learn how to survive by feeding themselves. Mom and dad don't need to feed these guys. They're pretty much on their own, but they're able to stay with mom and dad so they learn how to survive. This animal is a totally different type of animal than a mammal or a bird. Do you know what this animal is? Yeah, this is a frog. Frogs are completely different because frogs will have their babies starting out as eggs. So this is just a little pile of eggs. These aren't real, just so you know. So these eggs should be in the water. Eggs stay in the water for the frog until they hatch. When they hatch into a tiny little tadpole, and the tadpole only has eyes, a mouth, gills to breathe with underwater, and a tail. And they almost look like a fish, but they're not fish because as the tadpole grows bigger, he'll start to grow little back legs. So when he grows those back legs, he can swim a little bit better with those back feet. And eventually then he grows his front feet. So he has front feet and back feet and his tail. When he gets to this point, it's time for him to start to change. And he eventually loses his tail and grows lungs instead of gills. So once he grows those lungs, he becomes a full-grown frog. So a baby frog doesn't look anything like the grown-up frog, and he's left to care for himself all on his own. That's kind of the same as the butterfly. So the butterfly is a very different type of animal from a mammal and a bird as well. And butterflies do not take care of their babies either. Their babies start as a little tiny egg on a leaf. Those little tiny eggs eventually hatch into a baby caterpillar. When that caterpillar is hatched, it spends most of its time eating the leaf that it's hatched on. It eats and eats and eats, and it grows and grows and grows. Every time it grows a little bit bigger, it sheds its skin and it becomes a little bit bigger caterpillar. But it keeps eating those leaves until one day it's so big that it has to turn into a chrysalis. When it turns into this chrysalis, the caterpillar is inside the chrysalis. He's growing inside of there, but he's changing. He's becoming a totally different animal, and eventually he comes out as a beautiful butterfly. The butterfly that we're talking about right now is called the monarch butterfly. All butterflies grow up the same way. Those butterflies start as caterpillars, and those caterpillars are the babies that grow and grow and grow until they become an adult butterfly. All babies are special. All babies are the beginning of a new life for a new animal. And every animal that we talked about today is a little bit different, but they're all very, very special, just like you. I hope you enjoyed today's program, and join us again next Wednesday for another story time. Hi everybody! All right, it's time for us to go for a little hike. We're going to look for where the animals hide their babies, and maybe if we get lucky, we'll see some baby animals. If you look carefully, you can see a mother robin in her nest. She is sitting on her eggs and incubating them, keeping them warm and safe. When those babies hatch, they won't have any feathers and their eyes will be closed, and they will need to eat. So Mom and Dad will go out and search for worms to feed them while they are still in the nest. So here we are by a wood pile and a bunch of brush behind our sugar shack. This is a great spot for rabbits to hide their babies. So the rabbits will build a tiny little nest in a hole in the ground, and those babies will hide there all day long while Mom goes out looking for food. There's some chipmunks. And the chipmunks are making sure to try to keep their babies that are underneath the ground safe. Chipmunks spend their entire winter underneath the ground in their tunnels. In the springtime, when they have their babies, that's where they keep their babies while they're little. And then, as the chipmunks get older, those babies come out of those tunnels and they run around and play all over the world. And here's a family of geese. Now all these babies don't belong to this mom and dad goose. Some of these babies have just joined up with this mom and dad. And if you look carefully, you can see there are different sizes of baby geese. A baby goose is called a gosling. And so when you look at them, you notice that mom and dad have bigger feathers. The goslings have just downy feathers that keep them warm. These babies can't fly yet, but they follow mom and dad around and they find food by themselves. They all stick together and stay safe. As we take a look at our family of geese, they're all taking some time out of the water to preen and clean their feathers. Even the babies are cleaning their feathers. You notice some of the babies are searching for food on the ground. Those babies that are searching for the food have learned how to do that by watching mom and dad. If you look carefully, you can see a school of fish fry. Fish fry are baby fish. These fish will stay together in schools until they get bigger. By staying together in schools or groups, it helps to protect them from predators. And there's another chipmunk. There he goes. This chipmunk is frozen. He's pretending like he wasn't there. He just stood still and is not moving, trying to make sure that I don't see him. There he goes. So even though chipmunks have their babies underneath the ground, squirrels make nests in the trees. And that's where they have their babies in the springtime. It's hard to see him. Look carefully. This tree is a woodpecker tree. So it used to be living, and now the tree is no longer alive. But the woodpeckers will make their holes in the trees looking for insects. Underneath the tree bark, there's insects in a dead tree. And the woodpeckers find those insects by pecking holes in the trees and sweeping those insects out with their long tongues. Now, this tree could also be the home for some baby woodpeckers, because woodpeckers will use their beaks to construct their nest in the inside of an old dead tree. Sometimes birds will use bird boxes or bird houses. And these bird houses give birds the ability to have a sheltered place to build their nests. This one has a nest on top of it and inside of it. The nest on top is from a robin, but the nest inside is for a house sparrow. And even insects make places that are special houses for their babies. This is a paper wasp nest, and this wasp lays their eggs inside of it, and all of those babies, all of those holes were for babies to grow inside of those holes and then come out eventually as an adult wasp. Sometimes animals build a hole in the ground, and that's called a den. So this hole in the ground right here could possibly be a den for a woodchuck. It's a little too small to be a den for a fox, but a fox would make the same kind of hole in the ground. They dig deep into the ground so that their babies can stay safe and away from predators. Another name for a hole in the ground for an animal is a burrow. So this is a type of burrow. Thank you for coming on the hike with me today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope that you were able to see some of the animals that we discovered. But if you come here and you find some of those babies on your own, please leave the babies where they are. Mom and Dad are around somewhere. They're nearby. They're just looking for food and trying to take care of their babies by hiding them. So leave the babies and don't pick them up or touch them, and Mom and Dad will be back soon to see them and take care of them. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the babies. And happy spring, everyone.